Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalava Giribaradhari Jaya Giribaradhari Gopi Janavalava Giribaradhari Jaya Giribaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tira Gunachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tira Gunachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Rakirabana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Chamuna Tirabana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabi Hari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nittai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Sri Guru Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayomutiraet Nashtapraye Svabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanang pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here today in the assembly of such enthusiastic Vaishnavas as yourselves. So I was born in the deepest darkness of ignorance, with my eyes closed shut, but by the supreme grace of the topmost wandering mendicant and swan-like devotee, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, he came to me and opened my eyes. Little study of Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 25, text number 21. And this chapter is entitled The Characteristics of King Purabham Aprodham Kamarupinim Panchashirshahin Pratiharena Sarvata Anveshamanam Vishabham Aprodham Kamarupinim Panchashirsahina Guptam Pratiharena Sarvata Anveshamanam Rishabham Aprodham Kamarupinim. Matajis. Pancha. 5. Shirsha, heads. Ahina, by a snake. Guptam, protected. Pratiharena, by a bodyguard. Sarvata, all around. Anveshamanam, who is searching after. Rishabham, a husband. Aprodham, not very old. Kamarupinim, very attractive to fulfill lusty desires. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The woman was protected on all sides by a 5-hooded snake. She was very beautiful and young, and she appeared very anxious to find a suitable husband. Okay, so simultaneous, okay. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The vital force of a living entity includes the 5 kinds of air working within the body, which are known as prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. The vital force is compared to a serpent because a serpent can live by simply drinking air. The vital force carried by the air is described as the pratihara, or the bodyguard. Without the vital force, one cannot live for a moment. Indeed, all the senses are working under the protection of the vital force. The woman, who represents intelligence, was searching after a husband. This indicates that intelligence cannot act without consciousness. A beautiful woman is useless unless protected by the proper husband. Intelligence must always be very fresh. Therefore, the word aprodham, very young, is used here. Material enjoyment means utilizing the intelligence for the sake of rupa, rasa, gandha, shabda, and sparsha, or form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. So, in this chapter, Narada Muni is explaining to King Prachinabarhishat about one king, a historical king named Puranjan. Now, this wasn't a real king, but this is what we call in English an allegory. Narada Muni is using this story to make his point to the king. Because Prachinabarhishat is a king, so he uses another king to make a story. So if you're preaching to a scholar, then you have to make a story with a scholar. Or if you're preaching to a businessman, you have to make a point through a business person. This is real preaching. Because preaching means we have to connect and make the other person understand what we're saying. This is called communication. So a king can understand when you talk about other kings. A businessman can understand when you talk about business things. A scholar can understand when you're speaking about scholarly things. So this King Puranjan never did exist, but Narada Muni is using this to preach to Maharaj Prachinabarhishat. So the kings, they're always enjoying. So this Puranjan, Narada Muni is explaining, he was always searching after more and more enjoyment. And he came across a wonderful garden. He had never seen such a beautiful garden before, and he was so happy wandering in this garden. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, he saw a very beautiful woman, and she was walking there without any engagement. Now it's very interesting. Puranjan was also walking there without any engagement. He was just walking to enjoy. So this other lady that he saw, this beautiful woman, was also just walking to enjoy. However, she had 10 servants following her, and each servant had hundreds of wives accompanying him. So in other words, there was 1,000 persons accompanying this beautiful woman just wandering in the garden. So clearly we can understand that this woman was on a similar level, very exalted, very wealthy, maybe a queen, so that Puranjan could relate. Ah, she's just like me. She's very beautiful, I'm very handsome. She's wandering without engagement, I'm also free, I don't have to work. She has so many servants, I have even more servants. Now in this shloka, she was protected on all sides by a 5-hooded snake. What does that remind us of? Sri Vishnu. He's protected by Ananta Sesh. So this woman also, she was protected by, it seemed like a 5-hooded snake. It might not have been Ananta Sesh, but Narada Muni is using this to make Puranjan think that it was Ananta Sesh, very special woman. She was not only very beautiful, but she was very young. And she apparently was not yet married. She was single. So in other words, she was available. So Puranjan could understand, this is something for me. So in the purport, Prabhupada describes the prana, which appeared as a 5-hooded snake. So the prana, there's panchavayu. There's a pranavayu, apanavayu, vyanavayu, samanavayu, and udanavayu. And this prana, these 5 pranas, are compared to a serpent because a serpent can live simply by taking air. Now, I didn't know that. This is the first time I heard that. Anybody knew this? Or is this also new? The serpent can simply live on air. Doesn't need to eat. Very interesting. So the vital force, which is carried by the vayu, is described as pratihara, or the bodyguard. It protects the body. Because when the pranavayu leaves the body is dead. Finito, as they say in Spanish. Sesh, as they say in Bengali. Hogya, as they say in Hindi. Ekdam hogya. Right? Without the pran. So we need that pran to keep our life, our body going. Because pranavina nahi tar shakti. No, we can't live for a moment. So all the senses are working under the protection of this pranavayu. Now the woman, Prabhupada explains, she represents intelligence. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, of intelligence I am woman. So women have certain intelligence that a man doesn't have. But a man has certain other intelligence that a woman doesn't have. So both of them have their own area of intelligence. So in this case, the woman who represents intelligence was single and she was desiring to have a husband. And Prabhupada explains that the analogy here is that our intelligence cannot act without consciousness. When the consciousness leaves the body, then the body has no more intelligence. When we're dead, we can't say that was an intelligent body. No, it's just a dead body. Prabhupada gave a very nice example about this. In 1942, he was living in Calcutta, and it was during the Second World War. And the Germans were dropping bombs. It was terrible. But at the same time, there was Hindu and Muslim community feelings going on. And then the bombs were dropping. So after the bombs were dropped, then the street cleaners would come to pick up the bodies and take them to the Mahashashan for burning. So Prabhupada made the comment, when the body is dead, no one is thinking Muslim or Hindu. It's just dead body. So only when you're alive, you're thinking, I'm Muslim, he's Hindu. But when you're dead, you're just dead body. So without consciousness, the body has no qualities, no identification except dead body. And then similarly, a beautiful woman, unless she's protected by the proper husband, she's in a very dangerous situation, because rogues and rascals will try to exploit her. And she's not protected, then she can come to great harm. We know this in Delhi. We read the newspaper headlines how 5 or 6 men are attacking one woman. How is it possible? What kind of low-quality Shudra men, 5 against 1? But if a woman is protected by one husband, then the 5 men will stay away. One husband is enough to protect. So this reminds me of an incident when I was temple president in our Bangladesh temple. Bangladesh, as many of you may know, is a Muslim country. So we were doing Gupta Prachar, but we made one big mistake. When we moved in, we got cow dung and we washed the whole place for purification. And immediately everybody knew, oh, they're Hindus. No Muslim does that. So we made that mistake. So they knew we were Hindus in a Muslim country, surrounded by Muslims, and we were preaching Vaishnava Dharma. So one day, I was in the temple, and some teenage boys came, and they started to throw stones at our temple. I became very angry. I rushed out of the temple, and they saw I was very angry. And even though there was 10 of them, and only 1 of me, they became frightened. And so they ran away. And I ran after them, feeling very powerful. And one of them had brought his brother, an 8-year-old boy, so he couldn't run so fast. So I caught up to him first, and I grabbed him by the arm. And he turned around, and he looked at me, and with sheer terror in his eyes, he said, Allah! And I thought, oh, that's very nice. He's calling the name of God when he's thinking he's going to die. I should be so fortunate that I can also remember the name of Krishna. So I said, okay, go, go, go. So they never came back, those 10. But I learned a lesson that, one fired up brahmachari is more powerful than 10 cowards, 10 bullies. So a beautiful woman, if she has a proper husband, then she's protected. And Prabhupada also compares that the woman was very young, which means our intelligence must be always very fresh. Very fresh. We should be, just like people go to the gym, they're working out, they're exercising to have a strong body. We have to exercise our intelligence so that we have a strong, fresh intelligence, so that we can overcome any problems, any difficulties, any challenges from other people. We can easily use our intelligence to defeat them. So therefore, aprodham, very young, refers to a very fresh intelligence. So Prabhupada completes his purport by making this statement, that material enjoyment means to utilize the intelligence for the sake of rup, ras, gandha, shabda, and sparsha enjoyment. So what about us? We are in a devotional service. We also have 5 senses, and those 5 senses are also very fully aware of rupa, rasa, gandha, shabda, and sparsha. So the senses have sense objects. And these are material sense objects. So how do we purify the senses? We purify the senses in several ways. Number one, we give spiritual sense objects to the senses. So for the eyes, instead of going to see Bollywood, we see Radhaparta Sarati. This is the spiritual sense object for the eyes. Instead of hearing Bollywood music, we hear Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mahamantra is a spiritual sense object for the ears. Instead of talking Gramya Katha, we talk Hari Katha. This purifies the tongue. We don't eat unmentionable non-veg items. We eat Mahaprasad. This is purifying the sense of the tongue. And like this, we offer purified sense objects to the senses. So we absorb our senses in the spiritual sense objects, not the material sense objects. That's the first thing we do. The second thing we do is we always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in this way, we keep our intelligence fresh so that we know to always look at the spiritual sense objects, so we don't become distracted. And then the third thing for purifying the senses is our sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha, sarva shastra koi, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. By associating with the Vaishnavas, especially the more advanced Vaishnavas, we are inspired to always remain fixed in bhakti yoga and only giving spiritual sense objects to the senses, only discussing and hearing Harikatha, and only doing bhakti yoga, which is devotional service. Now, in 1995, I had a very interesting experience. I was invited to Honolulu, Hawaii, for the biggest festival of the year in Honolulu. It's called the Aloha Day Festival. And for that festival, they have a big parade, and it's on television. And everybody who's not on the street watching the parade, they're at home watching the parade on the television. So the devotees asked me to come and lead kirtan, and we had a Jagannath Rathayatra cart. That was our float in the procession. So then it was a very successful festival. And then the next day, after breakfast, I noticed the devotees were loading a van. So I was thinking they're going out to do Sankirtan. But there was men and women. And then one Mataji, Kriya Shakti Mataji, she came up to me and she said, what are you doing today? I said, I don't really have a plan. She said, well, we're going to the hospice. There's a famous yogi here in Hawaii. He used to come to the Sunday feast. He was a friend of the devotees. He's going to die. He only has 2 days left to live. And we're going to go and chant Hare Krishna for him. Do you want to come? I said, yes, let me come. So we drove to that hospice, and we entered into the room. This yogi was lying there on his deathbed, and he was watching TV. You know, every hospital room, they have a TV by the bed. So Kriya Shakti Mataji, very strong, she walked in there, turned off the TV. What are you doing? You're going to die in 2 days. You're watching TV? And she brought a Bhagavad Gita as it is. She said, here, take this Bhagavad Gita. Look at the picture of Krishna driving the chariot for Arjuna. You should be meditating on this. She was chastising this yogi. The bhaktas, they're more powerful than the yogis. I saw it with my own eyes. He was, yes, Mataji. He knew she was right. So then she said, I have brought some devotees. We're going to chant Hare Krishna with you. You please now. So there was about 8 or 9 devotees. So 4 of them were on one side of the bed, 4 on the other. I was new. I didn't know anybody. So I was at the end of the bed. And then Kriya Shakti Mataji said, do you want to lead the kirtan? Okay. So I started chanting. And the kirtan's going on. And I'm watching this yogi. And he can't chant. His eyes are moving like this. He's very restless. And he's trying to hear, but he can't chant. And then I had a realization. And I'll share with you my realization. I realized that if we don't practice chanting the Maha Mantra our whole life, we will not be able to do it at the end of the life when we're about to die. Because we don't have that samskara in the brain. The habit to always chant, for the mind to go to the Maha Mantra. It was not in his brain. He couldn't do it. He couldn't chant. He tried, but he didn't have the bhav. And his eyes and head was moving like this. He was restless. He couldn't focus. He couldn't meditate. I kept on chanting, and then I had another realization. And my second realization was this, that at the end of life, when you only have 2 days left to live, and you're lying in the hospital, Hatha Yoga cannot help you. It's useless. You cannot do Padmasana. You cannot do Pranayama. You can't do anything. The only thing that can help you is Bhakti Yoga. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalo nascheva, nascheva gatiranyata. This is why everyone is stressing the power of this chanting of Mahamantra for purifying the mind, the senses, and the intelligence. So this is a very long story that King Prachinabarishad is hearing from Narada Muni about Paranjan Maharaj. And as the story goes on, the King Puranjan gets married, and then he becomes henpecked, and his wife's telling him what to do, and he's saying, yes, 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 yes. She becomes the controller. And then finally he dies. And he doesn't go back to Godhead. He comes back in his next life as a woman. But in this second life as a woman, he realizes what a fool he was. And in the second life as a woman, he takes up Bhakti Yoga and then becomes liberated. So in this way, Narada Muni is telling the king that if you're thinking you're the controller and the enjoyer, you'll just take birth in an inferior situation. And in an inferior situation, you are more capable to take up the process of Bhakti Yoga. And then you can go back home, back to Godhead. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna are so merciful, they pick up the most fallen. They don't pick up the most exalted. They pick up the most fallen. Why? Because the most fallen, it's emergency situation. We need it desperately. The most exalted, they have a little more time. We're already at the bottom. So pick us up immediately. So Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jeev, the most fortunate soul who's wandering throughout the universe in so many life forms. By the mercy of Krishna, he comes in contact with the pure devotee, and then he can go back to Godhead. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beej. So Krishna makes an arrangement, you come to the pure devotee. Seed is planted in the heart of Bhakti Lata, and then by the mercy of the pure devotee, you get Krishna. So by watering that plant, Bhakti Lata, in the heart, by hearing and chanting, just like every flower needs sunshine and rainwater, similarly we need Shravanam Kirtanam. And then that Bhakti Lata will grow and grow and grow and pierce the coverings of the material universe and take shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. And that's when we arrive back home in Goloka Vrindavan. So this is the process. So Narada Muni is going to explain everything to King Prachinabarhishat. This is wonderful. 4th canto. We should take notes and understand the situation, how Narada Muni is preaching. Narada Muni is our Param Guru Maharaj in Parampara. We can see how he's preaching. We can learn from him how to preach, how to make devotees, how to communicate, how to get people inspired in Krishna consciousness. We learn from all our gurus, so why not Narada Muni? Topmost guru. Topmost. He's going everywhere. We like to do traveling Sankirtan. Who's the number one traveling Sankirtan Bhakta? Narad Rishi. Everywhere he goes. So we can follow in his footsteps, and then we will be blessed. Ashirvad, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prashna hai?
Hare Bol.
Yes. Microphone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a wonderful lecture. You were sharing that how to purify senses. You are about to share 5 points. You had shared 3 points only. One is that giving up the spiritual objects and chanting always and sadhu sangha. So I think I missed out 2 points only.
So sparsha, we touch the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. We touch the murti when we're doing seva. So that touching should be done rather than the touching of other things. The fingers always like to touch things. Or we can touch prasad, put it in our mouth. Shabda, that is hearing Harikatha. Gandha, smelling the tulsi leaf, the garlands, the incense from the murtis. Rasa, the taste of prasadam. Rupa, the beautiful form of the Lord, like this. So we give these 5 senses spiritual sense objects. ठीक है?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It's a very wonderful experience to hear from your lotus mouth. I have this query that allegory you mentioned. So this is real or simply an imagination? Because allegory means drishtant, rupak, udaharan, 3 or 4 meaning in Sanskrit. So what is, it is real or just imagination of Narad Muni?
Oh, this story here.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Puranjan is not a real historical person. It's only a story for preaching purposes. That's what we call an allegory. You make a story to make a point. It has a moral. So he wants to make a point to the king by using a story of another king, but not a real king.
Okay. Then the next birth of Puranjan, he took as a female of some exalted Vaishnava married him. So this is also unreal imagination type.
You know, the whole thing is a story. The whole life is one big story. It's not that this is a story and the next is real. No, it's all story. He's trying to make a point. The king doesn't know it's a story. King thinks it's real. But Narada Muni is telling this story to the king to make a point, to make the king a devotee. We only know it's a story because Prabhupada is telling us in Parampara, all the acharyas are telling to us, this is a preaching tactic. And Prabhupada called these preaching tactics, he called it transcendental trickery. Transcendental trickery. And he told us, you have to learn how to catch the big fish without getting wet. Using transcendental trickery. There's no harm. He's not telling a lie. He's just giving a story. We tell our children stories all the time. It's not a lie. But it's for preaching purpose. Okay. To inspire that king to get serious about bhakti yoga. That is the point.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful lectures. Many nice points you have illustrated, like just for purification of our senses, you have given three things. My question is that you have said a sentence that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes most fallen. So how it will be decided who is most fallen?
We don't decide who's the most fallen. I only think I'm the most fallen. I don't think anyone else is the most fallen. I'm the most fallen. I should think like that. That is the meaning of das, 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 anudas. Everyone else is my Prabhu. Everybody else is Prabhu or Mataji. And I am das of the Mataji. I am das of the Prabhu. I am das for everybody. So I am most fallen. This is the mentality that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us. Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnana amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Now kirtaniya sadahari, it means we always want to chant Hare Krishna mantra. How to do it? Amanina manadena. This is the secret how to do it. Amanina, I don't desire any honor or respect for myself. Manadena, I give all honor and respect to everybody else. I consider myself most fallen. I give everyone else all honor and respect, and I don't want any for me. Now, if I practice like that, then I will be able to do Kirtaniya Sadahari. I will become more humble, and I will become very tolerant. This is the process, Manadena, Amanina Manadena. So we want to cultivate this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if Krishna sees that I'm in this very humble position, offering all honor and respect to all Vaishnavas, he gives his full Ashirvad. But if he sees that I'm puffed up, and I'm thinking that I'm the Prabhu and he's the Das, then Krishna doesn't give his Ashirvad. So then I'm fool number one, because I'm not getting Ashirvad, and someone else is getting. Then how I will be successful in Bhakti Yoga? So in every endeavor, there's a right way and a wrong way to do something. Is it not? I give you an example. Supposing I have a headache, then I need to get headache medicine. But there's a right way to take the medicine and a wrong way to take the medicine. The right way to take the medicine is to swallow the tablet with water. The wrong way to take the medicine is to take the tablet and put it where the pain is. The headache won't go away. It's the same medicine, but you did it wrong. So, if we're practicing Bhakti Yoga, you have to do it right. Das, 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 anudas is doing it right. Okay? Hare Krishna. ठीक है?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. sharing wonderful relationship. We are coming from the material consciousness. We are enjoying this rupa, taste, and all these things. So when we come to the spiritual also, we approach in a material way. So it's seeing the prasadam in a material consciousness and vigraha, how it's nicely decorated. So how to cultivate that spiritual consciousness so that we can go more deeper in Krishna consciousness.
How to continue?
How to cultivate the spiritual consciousness.
Oh, how to cultivate. So we always stay in the association of Vaishnavas. We always stay in the association of the Murti. So if you live in the temple, it's always here. If you get married and they have a grihastha ashram, a grihastha house, then in your home you have murtis. And you do your seva in your home. You have an altar, you have murtis, Gaurnitai, or you have Jagannath, or whoever you have. You have the parampara, and you do the program at home. You offer your prasadam. So in my home, my wife, she does the dressing of the deities, she does the cleaning of the deities, and I do the shopping for the deities, I do the cooking, and I do the offering. So we have our duties. We're both serving our deities, Sri Sri Radha Damodar, in our home. And when we travel, we take Sri Sri Radha Damodar with us. We travel, they also travel. And when we arrive at the next place, they're also in the next place. We take them out and we do our puja. So you're always with Krishna. You should always be with Krishna. Or you should be with the Shastra. If you're not ready to do puja, then you should always have the Shastra. So you have Bhagavad Gita wherever you go. You read a shlok every day. Prabhupada made a nice suggestion. He said, you should just read one shloka and one purport every day. And for that whole day, in your mind, you repeat that shloka so that you know it. And then later on, when you're preaching, that shloka will come out. Now, if you do this every day, then in 2 years, you memorize the entire Gita. But you have to be humble. So I'll tell you a story of one of my godbrothers, Pundarik, from Chicago. So he memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita. So then in 1975, Srila Prabhupada came to Chicago for the Chicago Rath Yatra. So one devotee a strong devotee became the bodyguard of Prabhupada, and he was always in front of Prabhupada's door. So Pundarik came to that devotee, and he said, please, I would like to see Srila Prabhupada. I have something very important to tell him. Oh, what is that? I want to tell him that I've memorized the entire Gita, and I want to quote the shlokas for him, the entire Gita. So he said, the guard said, okay, let me knock on the door and ask Srila Prabhupada. So he opened the door. He said, Srila Prabhupada, your disciple Pundarik Das is here, and he wants to tell you that he has memorized the entire Gita and he wants to chant for you. So the guard, I forget his name right now, I'm very sorry. It'll come back to me. But he told me the story. He said when he opened the door, Srila Prabhupada was writing, and he told him that your disciple Pundarik is here and he's memorized the Gita. And Prabhupada said, without even looking up, still continuing to write, tell Pundarik he should go out on Sankirtan. He could understand that Pundarik was puffed up. I know, I memorized the Bhagavad Gita. And Pundarik was good. You could tell him 1322 and he would tell you the shloka. 1836, he would tell you the shloka. 265, he would tell you the shloka. He knew every shloka. But because he wasn't humble, Prabhupada didn't want to see him. You understand? So I'm referring to his point also. We have to become humble. We have to do it right, correctly. Das, 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 anu das. Because if Prabhupada doesn't want to see us, it means that Radharani doesn't want to see us either. She also likes humble devotees. Means Krishna doesn't want to see us. Krishna doesn't like puffed up devotees. He likes humble devotees. So this is how we attract Krishna. Amanina Madadena. And then Kirtaniya Sadahari. So we have to be fixed in this. Each person has to come up with their own strategy. Either you're reading the books, you're doing puja, you're discussing Harikatha with the Vaishnavas. You have to come up with something that you always do. So for me, it was always to do kirtan. Someone else, he's always cooking. Someone else, he's always doing puja. Someone else, he's always doing book distribution. Someone else is writing articles for Back to Godhead. Like this. You have to get your service and become absorbed. Fully absorbed in your Bhakti Yoga Seva. That's how you stay in that consciousness. TK? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.